grab your wine. It's time for Rosé All Day and Juleigh's a Mess, where we talk about current events and living in an intersex life. And now, here's Juleigh.
I love that intro, but every time I hear it, I'm like, when's it going to end? Welcome to Rosé All Day, everybody. Welcome to our first show of 2022. Literally has been almost a full year that we've been doing this podcast. Our format is changing up a little bit this year. So this year, while last year was all about me and having fun guests on, we're going to continue that tradition of fun guests, but we are inviting guests from my TikTok family, from my regular family, from all the people I know out in social media world to come and collectively tell their stories on this podcast in an effort to learn more about marginalized medical stories, marginalized people, things that are going on in people's lives. I really want this channel to become a safe place for all. And it is very important, and I teach all the time, that if we don't collectively tell our stories, changes will not come about. And so this year, we are going to share our stories. We're going to talk about things that make us question other things. We are going to find ways to support each other in an ongoing way every week at Tuesday on Rosé All Day. This week, I'm not drinking wine. I'm drinking Gatorade because I have not been feeling the best. But we are still looking for a wine sponsor. Also, people have always said, I love your wigs. I'm looking for wig sponsors. You want to be a part of my life? I absolutely will let you. I will give you credit on my show. And we will also tell you collective stories. Because the format has changed some, I'm still going to let my guests let you know how we know each other and where we met. That's still going to stay a part of each show. But instead of doing current events, I think because we only have an hour block of time each week, we're going to go right into our guest story each week. So, hey, Charlie.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
You look good.
Thank you. How do we know each other?
California. I seen you singing in California, and I enjoyed your singing, so I introduced myself.
And how long ago was that?
It had to be in 2005.
I mean, we've known each other for almost 25 years.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Best 25 years for me.
The other day, I was on Facebook, and there was one of those tests where it said, pick the second person in your list. And it said something like, my life was normal and I was less crazy prior to meeting so-and-so. And I clicked on it and it said Charles Richardson. And I was like,
we're so lucky we never ended up in jail.
True. True. And now we wouldn't even be in the same cell block. At least before, we would have held each other's hands and been like, we were so screwed. Now I have to be like, yo, Bertha, can you drop this off at the C cell?
The best part about that, I'd get all the men.
Right.
Look where you'd be.
Right.
Just try it till you got out.
I would not try it. So I want to reach over to live chat right now. We have a lot of people joining us this evening, and I'm super excited about it. I want to say hi to Sharon. I want to say hi to Marilyn and Louise. Louise is Miss Missy on TikTok. We have a lot of our TikTok family joining us this evening. We have a lot of people that will be watching later. Feel free as we go through the show to post your questions. Post your questions for Charlie. Post your questions for me. Charlie can see the live chat as well. We will make sure that we are answering all of those as well. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. for all of those that are continuing to listen on Spotify and Blurry and iTunes, feel free to make comments on these videos. Please join us, but I'm really excited. So we're going to get right into the crux of it. I've known Charlie for a long time. About 5 or 6 years ago, he went to the doctor and he found out that he had a tumor, and he'll be able to tell us more about it, but he has a tumor located in his neck and one located at the base of his spine. So Charlie, I guess the easiest thing to do tonight is catch us all up to speed. How did you find out about these tumors, and what are they, and what are, just kind of tell us about that medical journey so far.
Well, it started off, I was hit head on by a drunk driver and went to the hospital. They did an MRI, and instead of coming back and telling me that, well, you have a disc slipped or whatever, it was, you have a tumor on your lower spine and we need you to get a biopsy done. We need it done so we could check it and see, you know what I'm saying, like if it's benign or malignant. And so they sent me to the cancer center, and probably 8 MRIs later, I still have no biopsy. And every time I get an MRI, it's grown a little, but it's stable. No biopsy. Come back in 6 months, do another MRI. I mean, I've done a lot of MRIs. And then I've done radiation.
You had we were talking about it earlier today. You had a procedure called a radiation bone or a radiation.
Yeah, it's a radio bone, and they put radiation basically through your body, and it goes through your body, and they'll
just like a dye.
Yeah, and they'll slide. You lay on a table, and the light goes down your body and checks your whole body and stuff like that, just to make sure I didn't have any more anywhere else. And I have one in my neck, so eventually I'll have to have the one in the neck removed. So now I'm just like, oh my God, what? I'm saying, like, what am I going to do? I mean, and I had Medicaid when I lived in West Virginia. Things happened with my parents. I moved here to Georgia. And I didn't know that I couldn't get Medicaid unless I had disability in Georgia. And my doctors in West Virginia would not let me work at all, wouldn't sign off on it or anything. So since I moved here, I've been working about a year. I've worked, and so some days really harder than others working.
And you currently, we don't have to divulge where you work, but you currently have a city job. So potentially you have decent insurance. Like, you don't have it, in my situation where I am on disability and I have Medicaid and Medicare, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. It's not like you have bad insurance.
No, I have my spouse's insurance. I'm on their insurance. So I have insurance.
And I mean, you feel like, and as we get more into that, somebody said, "Why no biopsy?" Somebody in the chat said, "Why no biopsy?" Why do you feel like you haven't been able to get a biopsy?
Because I can't pay the copay, and the insurance will pay. They'll pay their part, no problem. They'll pay it, but the facilities want their copay before they'll do the procedure, just to make sure that, I guess, they get their pay, they get paid. So that's my whole figuring, and they know I don't make a ton of money. So, my thinking is, how's he going to pay a monthly payment? He needs to pay all of it up front.
How much is that?
It's $2,187.53. Yep, and 53 cents.
And 53 cents.
Yeah.
Up front.
Yeah, I can give them the 53
before they'll
cents.
even bill your insurance.
Right.
Who has that? Just setting aside, like when you're in a situation that's a medical necessary situation, who has that?
And the thing is, insurance they understand. It's the facilities who say, we can't do nothing about it. That's our rules. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's our rules. And I'm like, this is my life here. my vertebrae could crack and I'll be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life because you couldn't help me and couldn't help me figure out how far it's spread, I guess, or how long it is till it cracks my spine.
What about pain and pain management? How has that been?
Nothing, because my doctor says she can't do the pain management. The only thing she can do is ibuprofen is what she gives me, and then she gives me some kind of nerve medication that doesn't work. So, and the job I have, I can't take narcotics. And with my family history, basically, I don't want to risk catching an addiction to something. You know what I'm saying? So I deal with it.
Well, now you used to get, if I remember correctly, you used to get injections directly into your spine.
Yeah.
But because of the size of the tumor and how it's grown now and its placement, they can't
won't do it
through
anymore.
the tumor and they won't go around it. So you're basically kind of up shit creek without a paddle.
Exactly. They won't even try it anymore. I went to a chiropractor. They won't even touch me. The only thing I've been able to do is go to aquatic therapy, and that's basically a big pool that's really hot, and walk around.
And so, so Louise is saying they won't take payments. This specialist supposedly will not take payments. They want it. They want it all up front. Another one of our guests this evening, Marilyn Antes, and she said, have you reached out to somebody like the Mayo Clinic? Have you reached out to a larger entity that may just kind of pro bono-ish take you in?
I have, and I've also reached out to the Cancer Center of America, and I didn't get past the first person. It's, we don't take that insurance, and they still want money. So, and to me, those are the most important places that somebody like me would call to try to get help. And when places like that turn you down, then you're just like, screw it. I don't care anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because if they won't see me, then who will? And I've been through therapy and all kinds of stuff I've had to go through. And now I'm just going to my primary care because that's all I can do.
So your primary care doctor, she has said to you, I can't do anything until you get this biopsy. So we can see where we're at.
Yeah, she said, there's nothing I can do for you until you go see these specialists. And there's nothing I can do for you.
But the specialist won't even take you in unless you pay them the $2,000, blah, 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 53 cents.
Yeah. And only thing she said is I can give you your medicine for your blood pressure and your nerve medication. That's all I can give you. And I'm talking like, I have to go see a neuro. I have to go see an ortho. You know what I'm saying? It's like not just the cancer center. There's a lot of different issues with my spine because of everything.
Right. And I understand because, as we've talked before about my medical issues, I have 8 or 9 doctors I have to go see, and we're even talking about that today. I have been piecemealing my estrogen since I moved and some of my other drugs. And what I mean by piecemealing is, and a lot of people have been doing this lately, offsetting, instead of taking your medicine every day, taking a pill every other day, trying to make sure the estrogen stays in your system, and maybe wearing a patch instead of wearing it every week, wearing it every 3rd week in conjunction with the pill. And you can't do that. I mean, your quality of life is suffering, and you're doing that. I'm doing that in an effort to save what medication I have until I can get to the doctor again. And a lot of people are coming up against that. You and I had talked about that earlier, and you'd made a very valid point. People that have diabetes are having to take half their insulin because they can't get covered to get the rest of it, or to get it all at once. Somebody shared with me that Medicaid, we had talked about this as well. Medicaid is a national program, but they're trying to catch up to paying for all these things that they've taken on over the last couple of years, and a lot of medical necessary specialists and hospitals aren't taking will turn you down, and you'll be like, where am I supposed to go? I have Medicaid, I have Medicare. Where am I supposed to go? Well, I don't know, but we don't take Medicaid because they don't pay.
Well, that's the thing. If I would have knew what it's the hindsight's 2020 or whatever, but if I would have knew how it would be living here, I wouldn't have came here. I'd have stayed there and kept my Medicaid and done it that way. You know what I'm saying? So I blame myself, but I don't blame myself.
Louise would like to know, if you don't mind sharing, who the insurance says.
Health. Give me 1 second. It's right here.
Okay. I agree with you. It's a shame. D, like the letter is saying, it's a shame our healthcare system is deplorable. We were talking earlier on TikTok about a gentleman, Stephen, came in from London, and he said, hey, from London. And I was like, I was just talking about London. They have the national health system. Everybody in England pays into it monthly, kind of like from your job or whatever, but everybody pays into it. And then when you have an issue, you go to the hospital and they take care of your issue, and everybody pays into it. So everybody's covered. It's universal healthcare for all. Canada has similar things. In England, Stephen was saying all of their COVID testing is free. You need a COVID test, you show up and get tested. Here, that's not the case.
$24 for a test, COVID test.
And, they're covered. Canada, they're covered. There are people like my parents that will argue we don't want universal health care because you have to wait on a list to get certain procedures done. And you're like, you wait on list here. I mean, they may not say to you, you're on a list, but you're absolutely on a fucking list in America. And they may or may not be positioning you on that list based on your insurance. Tell us, before you tell us your insurance, tell us a little bit about some of that for you. Like, we were talking about that earlier, but what have you heard or what do you know to be true about having things like Medicaid?
I've been told that Medicaid, when I had it, things weren't getting done because that was considered to most doctors and things like that as the bottom of the barrel, and they wasn't going to get paid. So a lot of times they deny it and won't do the procedures. Because I've had to go, West Virginia denied me an MRI, so my doctor went all the way through to Kentucky, and Kentucky said, yeah, we'll do it, we'll pay for it. So Kentucky paid West Virginia for me to have it done. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, how ridiculous. And then things that they would do with my town MRIs, because of Medicaid, I would have to go all the way an hour and a half to an hour away to get an MRI done, and then go all the way back home. And there's 2 facilities in my town that did MRIs, So just stuff like that.
Stuff like that. So like through Medicare and Medicaid, they say that if you have dentures and you're on that, because I'm Medicare and Medicaid, they say every 5 years you're supposed to be able to get a brand new set of dentures. I've had dentures since 2014, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the same pair, and I've dropped them, and I had to go pay out of pocket to get them fixed. And I'm like, where do you go to get your dentures? And I've called Medicaid and I've called Medicare, and they're like, go wherever that we're accepted. But then you have dentists that are like, we don't take Medicaid. We don't do that.
And
we're not doing it. And I'm like, so you have one thing over here that's saying we're a government instituted insurance platform and we will cover all of this for you. And then you have everybody down here that would take insurance saying, we don't take it. We don't take it here. We don't take it here. We don't take it here. And you're like,
why send me a number every month if nobody's going to take it.
Right.
I mean,
And then it's ridiculous, and it's state to state, and it's, you'll move to. I've heard that Massachusetts has the best public assistance set into play, and you think that's great, but it costs a fucking arm and a leg to live in Massachusetts. So they may have the absolute best, and you may be able to get everything that you need done through your Medicaid and Medicare, but rent's $6,000 a month in Boston for a 1-bedroom. Like, who can afford to live there?
my thing is, you have West Virginia. I'm not saying nothing bad about the state, but when you look at per capita, the drug addicts that are there, a lot of them get Medicaid, and they go in to the doctor with fake illnesses, wanting their pain medications, and it makes it hard for people like me or you, legitimately hurt, not feeling well, to go in and get anything for pain because they think you're coming in wanting narcotics, So, it's just screwy all around.
I mean, it's a broken system for sure.
Yep.
Let's go back up to Louise. She had asked what insurance you have, if you didn't mind sharing. Who do you have?
HealthGram.
HealthGram. And who are they through? Because, they're usually always through like MetLife or, a bigger kind of corporate.
First Health.
They're through First Health.
Yep.
So Louise, First Health or HealthGram. She was saying it's free here in Florida, right? They charge for a COVID test. Here in Georgia, I think they do charge for a COVID test. Some places they do. $24, I think, here. So let's see, Charles, what state do you live in? Maryland. Charles is in Georgia.
Well, yeah, and my thing is, it's not my insurance doing this to me, and I don't want people to think that it's my insurance, because it's not. It's the healthcare facilities that are now not accepting
that insurance,
partial payments, or they won't give you on a payment plan. It's, you have to have this, and then we'll do it. It's not my insurance, because they're actually really good to me.
And thank you, Mike Phillips. He said Aspen Dental will take Medicaid or Medicare. I still haven't been able to get my dentures through any of them, so I'll have to check into that. So we've talked about kind of the insurance programs. We were talking about Medicaid and Medicare and how some of the specialists are not taking the insurance, and how that puts everybody kind of in a lower grade or lower place. I wanted to kind of interject. Charlie and I talked about this earlier, and this is why it does make you wonder with state programs and Medicaid and stuff like that. I had to go get an MRI a couple of years ago in Florida, and I had a TIA. I'd had a stroke, and they were trying to monitor my epilepsy. And so they sent me to get this MRI, and I show up, and this particular machine, it must have been the first MRI machine ever created. It sounded like I was inside a jet engine.
It needed an MRI
engine, and it was in like a double wide. It was not attached to the hospital, and they kept saying, "Please be still, please be still." And the machine's bouncing around like a bobblehead. And I was like, I'm trying. And I got out and I was like, that's the crappiest. I mean, that's worse than a broken Crapmatic adjustable bed. Like, that's hellish. And the nurse said, but that's what your insurance pays for. And I said, what? And she said, that's what Medicaid pays for. She goes, if you didn't have Medicaid, if you had a better insurance attached to your Medicare, they would have sent you up the street to the brand new whimsical hospital, and you would get out in a brand new MRI machine. And I'm like, but the difference can literally be, y'all aren't going to get the same image. If you're trying to figure out what's wrong with me, you're not going to get the same image from a new, brand new state-of-the-art MRI machine to the first one ever built. The image, and then you're not going to be able to tell where my health grade is or where I'm kind of at. And that's damning to people that are on a lower scale or lower insurance ideology. I mean, you could miss stuff. You're not being given the qualitative care that others are being given. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and why I agree with it is because I used to work on an ambulance, so I seen how people were treated. Like we would stay in the room with patients, and you would see how they were treated when the what do they call them? The social worker comes in to talk to them, and they'll say, "Oh, it's Medicaid," and that's how they talk to them. And even other insurance, like, "Oh, you have such and such." And it just seems like the attitude when the nurses would come in and the doctors would come in was totally different.
And it's sad because, I mean, especially on a nursing level, it's sad because nurses are there to give you care regardless. But I mean, it trickles down. People think it's not any difference, but it trickles down to the kind of meds they give you when you're in a hospital, to the care. And Louise just said, yep, it depends on your insurance, what level of care you receive.
And I'll tell you that because my sister's a nurse and my aunt's an RN. And they told me when I was in West Virginia, they're not doing this because it's Medicaid. You're not getting this because it's Medicaid. They should have put you on this, but because you have Medicaid, they're going to put you on this. And guess what? They put me on that. You know what I'm saying? Like it was I never wanted narcotics because I never wanted to be an addict. I just wanted you to help me manage my pain. And so I could live day to day and not be stuck in a wheelchair or walking on my arm crutches or using a cane to go somewhere or even using the bathroom on myself. I wanted y'all to figure out how to help me. So I feel because of that, they didn't help me.
Marilyn also said, I honestly think it depends on the state you live in too. That may be. It may absolutely be the state you live in. We just said that Massachusetts seems to have the best palliative care across the board for everybody, but yet it's so expensive to live in Massachusetts. So somebody that's on the poor end of a scale, they're not going to be able to go in and get the treatment that they need at all. Like they wouldn't be able to do that if they can't afford to live in the state. Nicole Robinson, the disparities are real, whether it's gender, race, or socioeconomic. There is bias. There is bias.
True. Yeah, absolutely. Very true.
Charlie, what is your pain level for everybody that's listening at home and for everybody that's watching with us this evening? What is your pain level? Let's do the hospital scale. What's your pain level on a scale of 1 to 10 right now?
Right now, 4 to 5.
45.
4 to 5.
Oh, 4 to 5. I was like, Jesus, you're like triple the scale. 4 to 5. But and for people listening at home and for watching right now, what is that? If you can describe that pain to us, what does that feel like? Because everybody experiences pain differently. What does your pain feel like?
It just depends. When I'm sitting down, it just feels like my whole body's just job of the hut, basically. I just feel like it's all just pushing down on everything. And when I have to walk, it feels like somebody's stabbing me right in the back.
And your when we say it's on your spine, it's literally like at the base of your spine where this tumor is. I saw it today.
Yeah.
Literally right
where you bend over and it stretches. It's right there.
It's right there. And you can tell it's grown in 5 years. You can tell that it's bigger and that it's gotten bigger and it's started to be bruised.
Yeah, and it turns black. And what I keep trying to tell the doctors is, no, I didn't fall. It's not coming. It's not a bruise on the outside. It's inside coming out, kind of like a bed sore. You know what I'm saying? Like it's started on the inside and it's coming out. So my back, splotchy black. So
it almost kind of looks like when you look at it, and certain days are worse than others, but you've shown me before where it almost kind of looks like you have black mold growing, kind
Yeah.
of. Like the beginning of black mold, like growing across your lower back.
And I'll go to the emergency room and they'll say, yep, that's a bruise. And I bring my medical reports and they'll look at them. Yep, that's a bruise. Well, the only thing we can do for you is give you some Percocet and suggest you get some Theragesic or BioFreeze. And I'm like, that's not the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, I use that stuff. That's not going to heal, help at all. So,
What is Marilyn was saying she lives in Michigan and she's dealing with breast cancer for the second time. So sorry to hear about that, Marilyn.
Sorry to hear that.
You are a warrior. I always say if you beat it the first time, you're going to beat it the second time. But you also have the love and support of all of us. So hopefully that counts for something. She's saying that in Michigan, she can honestly say that she has some of the best doctors in Michigan. She loves, or she has Medicaid. Sorry, she probably doesn't. But she has Medicaid. Mike Phillips is in Indiana, and he says he gets great care. Sometimes it does make you wonder because we're in Georgia. I love Georgia, but we are in what is considered by many in the United States to be a poorer socioeconomic state, almost like Louisiana. So maybe some of the care here is just part of that. But regardless, you were saying that you experienced that in West Virginia too, another state that's also on that kind of socioeconomic bubble. And then Kentucky had offered to pay for your services in West Virginia. Yeah, so exactly. It probably is state to state, and there probably is some of that. Feel free, if you are watching this later, to comment on your thoughts in the comment section. We can always circle back in another at another time.
Well, I just find it ridiculous that me living in Georgia and having insurance, or even when I lived in West Virginia and having Medicaid, you deny a brain scan for me, but you have to go all the way to another state for them to approve and pay for what I had done in my home state. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just so. And then they'll say, well, it's how they sent in the paperwork. They didn't word something correctly.
They didn't bill it. They didn't put in the right code.
Yeah, and then exactly. And then there's like, well, tell them to do it again. So they do it again, and I get a letter. This is denied. We don't see why it's medically necessary. I'm like, because I'm choking to death every time I swallow.
Now let's talk some about that. We're going to go back to Louise. Louise wanted to know, she said, Charles, did you talk about payments with the desk girl, or did you talk to the actual billing manager?
I talked to the head nurse.
The head nurse?
Yes.
So Louise is saying maybe speak to their billing manager.
And I'm not trying to be rude, but good luck. I mean, good luck. I mean, because I've called places trying to talk to human resources or somebody over somebody else, and you get, well, I'm the manager, and I'm like, no, you're not. Like your thing says intake,
right?
So no. But I mean, I've tried everything. I mean, I have. It's been going on.
You have, because
about 7 years.
It's been going on since before your mom and dad were killed in that auto accident.
Right.
I'm not laughing about that, but that happened almost 6 years ago, and you were dealing with it way before then, because your mom went with you to some of the.
She always went. When I went to the cancer center, she was always there. So.
Let's see. Okay. You should be talking to your case manager, Mike Phillips said.
I have. For my insurance, I have. It's out of their hands. They'll pay their portion, but they're not going to talk for me. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to call and go, well, you need
They're
to
not going to advocate for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they'll pay their portion when the time comes for them to pay it, but they're not.
And their hands are washed of it because they paid their part.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, he's saying his insurance isn't necessarily the problem right now. It's his doctors are sending him to specialists, and the specialists are saying you need X amount of dollars up front before we'll even bill your insurance and even do the procedure. So right now his frustration is really in just a specialist that will do their job and help him figure out the tumor situation or his medical situation. It's not even the insurance at this point. It's just
the runaround. Yeah, I'm getting the runaround.
But Mike's saying, but they can guide you. But that's the thing, Mike. They're not guiding him. That's part of his frustration, is that they're saying we're washing our hands of it. We're going to pay our part when it's time for us to pay our part, but you're on your own until then. We're not going to advocate for you. And he's saying he keeps getting the runaround.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, tell me what I'm supposed to do, which their thing is pay it. You know, I mean, that's all they get. And I do work. I mean, I don't sit on my work.
But. So Nicole Robinson has said politicians in Georgia, as well as other southern states, which is kind of what we were talking about, Louisiana, Alabama, refused expansion of Medicaid when it was offered. It is political. I am in healthcare and reside in the South. So she's saying, you know, that's one of the issues right there, is that
I think it's political.
States have said we don't want to take on the expansion. And because of that, their constituents in these southern states are suffering. We're suffering.
And
you know,
the sad thing is you hate to make, because I'm not political really, but I don't like to make everything about politics. But when it comes back every now and then and slaps you right in the face, then you're kind of like, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, well, yeah, maybe, you know.
Right. Mike is saying they're supposed to do their job. At least it's what they do here. I even found in Florida, when I was in Florida, on disability, I would have to do the job. And I'd be like, why am I not getting paid and you're giving me a headache to do your job? Your job.
Well, that's why even going to the welfare office when I was helping my friend do that, it was, well, you need to go get this. And it's stuff that, here's this paper, you go have it signed. And it used to be, we'll fax this over to them. They can sign it and fax it back. Now you're running around, you know what I'm saying, trying to get everything. And if you don't, then they close your case and you start all over again. And that's what happened with the kids. You know, we had to start all over again, you know.
I mean, it's hard. What do they, is there a medical name for the tumors that you have, or they are just calling them tumors?
They're called sacral hemangiomas. And what they are is, some people when they're born, they'll get outside birthmarks on their face or whatever, and they grow and sometimes disfigure your face or arms or whatever. Sometimes they are on your bones and they're supposed to go away when you get older, but mine didn't go away. They just grew and got bigger.
They almost were dormant, or they really kind of, you think the accident set that off? You think getting hit in the accident set it off? Do you think that kind of?
Nobody's ever said, because I mean, I didn't know until they told me I needed a biopsy after I had my MRI. I didn't know, but it just seems like it kept getting worse. And then like when I'd go have another MRI, they're like, it's this big now, but it's stable. And we don't think it's cancerous, you know, but I'm like, I don't want somebody to not think. I want you to know, you know, and it could grow and it could crack my spine and my vertebrae that it's on, it could crack it, you know.
And then you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. And then you have to take on the payments of altering your house to be able to fit your wheelchair, or finding a place to live that will allow you to have access to your wheelchair. And you've got to get a good wheelchair. And for me, sometimes I look at it and I think, palliative care would be so easy if you just did it right the first time. Instead, you're creating more issues for these patients. You're creating more issues for them financially that they're not going to be able to take care of. Case in point, A lot of people always are interested in my underdeformed pancreas and if that gives me any issues. And while I don't have any diabetic issues, I do have malabsorption issues. And I am supposed to be on an enzyme pill called Creon. So when they first put me on this pill, and I got the bill through, because you see what Medicaid covers and what it doesn't cover. I saw that it had covered this enzyme and or Medicare had, and I thought, well, thank God for that, because a 3-month supply was $6,000. $6,000 for a 3-month supply. And you're taking 2 pills a day. Or 2 pills before any big meal. So 2 pills before breakfast, 2 pills before lunch, 2 pills before dinner, a pill before. So you go through like 8 pills, 7 pills in one day. So a 3-month supply, and they would send you these big, like huge bottles of this drug. And I remember saying to the doctor at the time, I went, that seems a little excessive. What would happen if your insurance didn't cover it and you had to pay for it out of pocket and you couldn't pay for it? And he said, very nonchalantly, well, you die. And I said, so what is going on with these people that don't have good insurance and they can't cover the drugs? And he looked up at me and he said, well, they die. That's ludicrous to me.
Yeah, it's sad.
I mean, that's absolutely ludicrous. Louise has said, she said at BCBS, which stands for Blue Shield, Blue Cross, or Blue Cross, Blue Shield, we had RNS that would help you find the center that would then take payments for your copay. So she was saying that was at least good for them. Getting Ssdi is a nightmare. Yes, it can be for a lot of people. I was blessed that it wasn't for me, and I've been able to stay on it. But I mean, I've been able to stay on it because as I age and as other things happen with the XXY, my body's shutting down other things. It seems like, I mean, I may be getting better, but at the same time, I'm not. And so like, that's what keeps me on it. Charlie and I have talked about it before. We know people that have gotten off before thinking they don't need it anymore. And then when they really needed it, they don't let them back in and they can't get back in and they can't get back on it. We have also heard situations where people have signed up for the Right to Work program through the government where they're saying, well, we understand that you have issues working, but if you sign up for this program, we'll slowly help you find a way to get back into the system, and it'll make you feel more valuable about your day, and you won't have any of the mental issues, and you get into the Right to Work program, and then they drop you, and you can't get back into Ssdi. Be right back. Gonna go check on something. Louise said, okay, great.
Well, what they do, it's a ticket to work, is what they do is when you come up for your review, they'll call your manager in and talk to them also and say, well, did she sit and stand a lot? Did she lift a lot of things? Well, that's a normal day of work. Go ahead and get your 40. We're not helping you no more. I mean, that's how they do it.
That's how they do it. And Mike Phillips said, Louise, you're right. My hospital here uses Commerce Bank for payments and interest fees. But here's the thing. If they're using a bank, right, then are you really getting the care if you don't have great credit? Because some of these banks, like, let's be honest, there's a bank called Plaid Banking, and they're tied to a lot of these like healthcare programs. Like even when you go to the dentist, sometimes they'll have like these special programs, and they'll be like, you can sign up for this care program through Plaid Bank, and you call and you have really shitty credit. And the next thing you know is you're not getting the care that everybody else is walking into that office to get. You're not getting the same care. They're like, oh, well, we can't do anything because you have shitty credit. Here's some paper. If you wet it in your spit, you can pack it right into the top of your tooth and then put some clear nail polish over the top of it, and you're good to go.
Paper mache.
And then Joe Dingle over here walks in and he has great credit, and they're like, we're going to bill your insurance $4,000 for a gold crown that took $3 to make. But let's put it on. You're going to be in so much less pain. Okay, I'm back. I mean, that's how I feel about it. It's very like Catch-22 and very like.
Your analogies just get me.
My analogies get everybody. It's funny. I mean, you have to laugh about it sometimes. You have to laugh about it. Like, my greatest fear is that I'm going to get, I mean, think of it like this. We were just talking about it earlier, that insurance, based on your insurance. Imagine if you were at like a camp in the summer and you come from a very wealthy family and you're down at the water swimming around with your friend, and your friend comes from a very low economic family, and a water moccasin swims up and bites both of you. I feel like the kid from the better part, they're going to be like, we're going to pump you with antivenom and we're going to put you up in the hospital. They're going to turn to the socioeconomic kid that's on the lower register, and they're going to be like, go ask your camp counselor to cut your leg open and start sucking the venom out. But it's true. That's true. And then they'd be like, well, that doesn't work. We learned in Boy Scouts that doesn't work. And they're like, don't tell him that. He doesn't have great insurance.
And cover your sore with a food stamp.
Right. They don't even have stamps anymore. They use we use the debit card. So they're going to be like, make a tourniquet with your food stamp card.
You can scrape the blood off.
I am, you guys, at least here, the nurses, doctors, all they see is your med chart. They don't see your finance. That would be great.
Well, it would be great when the social worker would come in to talk to you and tell everybody else to leave the room and not go over, which it's happened to me here in Georgia. It's happened to me, and come in and discuss and stuff while they're hooking me up to their machines and stuff like that. They're, ask me what I can pay, what I do for work, so I'm like, it all sounds good and they're not supposed to know, but there's way for them to know. There's way. Yeah, because I mean, I used to work, when I worked for an ambulance, I would put in trip sheets for West Virginia trip sheets, and I could go in there and look at people's information. And when you go pick them up, the nursing home will hand you the patient, everything about that patient, they hand it right to you. So you put it in your report. So there's ways for people to look at what you're doing, And
it's sad. We had shared before, I have a friend that was, she had to have a cancer scan done and some things done in the hospital on her stay. And she came from a wealthier family and she had good insurance. And the nurse walked in and brought a bunch of those Go Lightly things you're supposed to drink to cleanse your system out. And she brought like 3 jugs in, and she goes to start to open all 3. And the mom said, I used to be a chemo nurse. She is not going to go through all 3 of those. Let's start with 1. Don't open the other 2. And the nurse was like, well, it's hospital protocol that we open the other 2. And she was like, no, it's not. You're going to bill her insurance for the other 2 at $600 a pop. We're not paying $1,200 for 2 bottles she doesn't use, then to watch you pour them down the sink because you can't use them for somebody else. We're not doing that. She was like, well, no, it's not hospital protocol. It's not medical protocol. She needs enough to do it, which is 1 gallon. Like, she doesn't need 3 gallons. And so we've talked about how oftentimes medical institution specialists, they will overbill or double bill. The other thing that's frustrating is I've been blessed enough in my life and with my XXY that doctors want to work with me. So sometimes I get the care that I need just out of people going, well, she's a fucking unicorn. I'd like to stick a needle in her backside and see what I can draw out. So like sometimes they're like, we'll do it. Just come in. We'll give you everything you need. Even though I have Medicaid and Medicare. But I have come up against instances where they don't, where it's not covered, and where people they treat you like pond scum, and you're like, what? So I mean, that's happened to me before, and people don't realize here in America that filters down to even sometimes. I mean, we've already talked about this evening drugs. We've already talked about procedures. Sometimes that filters down into what they feed you when you're in the hospital.
Well, let me say something about you. I knew things were horrible when I took you to the hospital in Hinesville. You was so sick, you had already taken Modium. The doctor comes in and you tell him what you had taken, and I say, that's too many. And he says, no, that's okay. And then when he left, he said, you can go ahead and take more if you need to. And I'm like, they wouldn't have warnings on the label if you weren't supposed to take 20 a day, and
but that was based on my insurance. He came in and he judged me and looked me upside, one side and down the other, and thought she can't pay. And so I'm just going to tell her to keep taking Lopidine.
And I was like, oh, and I looked at you, I'm like, we're never coming back here again.
But that's Georgia for you. 3 gallons would kill someone. Right, Mike Phillips, 3 gallons would kill someone. And she was not, we all knew she wasn't going to be drinking 3 gallons of it. But that's the point, is that the hospital didn't care. They were going to bill her for 3.
And throw 2 away.
So people ask about my breast surgery and my breast, which I had done in June. Medicare does cover parts of gender dysphoria in people that trans individuals, things like that. Sometimes Medicare will absolutely cover it, and now they're covering it because you can go back and be like, it's affecting my mental, and there's such a big push for like mental awareness and mental health that it'll be covered. But you can't go in and get like a facelift and your boobs done and your hoo-ha reconstructed and your asshole lifted. Like, there's got to be like, it's not going to cover all of that. But because I'm XXY and I didn't have to have any surgeries below the belt, and I didn't have it, it was covered for me to have my breast lifted. One of the things that's frustrating is it would not have been done had Nebraska Med not been able to get it signed off on through my insurance. So imagine also this level of care when somebody goes and they're like, your surgery is approved. We got it signed off on. Oh, great. And then you go get it done. And then you get a bill for $310,000. And they're like, oh, we're not approving it. We don't approve it. We denied this claim. And you're like, I couldn't have even have gotten it if you hadn't approved it in the first place. So you're paying for it. Somebody is not doing their job. You are paying for it. Because can you imagine having a surgery that you absolutely need, that is life or death? We're not talking about my breast. Please keep up if people are following at home. But imagine going in and getting a life or death procedure done and then getting billed for it because your insurance at that point said, we're not paying for it. That happens too. So it definitely depends on where you live, Mike.
Well, when I lived in California was good. I enjoyed actually going to the doctors there because they were good. They cared. It wasn't how many patients they could go through on their shift. It was they sit down, talk to you, let you know a plan.
California was good. For me,
Yeah.
Florida was good. I had some of the best doctors I've ever had in Florida. Nebraska, the year I was in Nebraska, was good. I think Nebraska was good just because some of those communities are so tiny that you're having, some of those farm communities across the state are so tiny. You have doctors sometimes traveling city to city just to provide quality care, but you still got great care.
Well, yeah, but you look at West Virginia where I went, their clinics were basically a chain clinics, New River Health, they're chain clinics basically.
Like urgent care.
Yeah, and like in 20-mile radius, you have 7.
Right.
Know? So, and my sister was a nurse at one of them, and it was how many people you can get in and out. It wasn't about the care. It was get the patient in, spend 10 minutes in, get them out. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they did it.
Hey, Tim Love, thanks for joining us this evening. And we are having a very open discussion about healthcare in America. We're talking about the southern states and how a lot of them have repressed taking on Medicaid expansion. And that affects people that are on Medicaid and Medicare and different insurance. We're having a great discussion this evening about Charlie and his palliative care as he fights to find somebody to biopsy the tumor that's on his lower back and spine and also in his neck. Let's talk about that real fast, Charlie. We've talked about the two tumors. You had shared with me something today, though, that you now have a hole in your esophagus. Is that true?
Yeah.
And is that tied to the tumor in your neck? Is that they're saying it's
don't know yet. I have polyps. They did I forget ECG or something like that. They stuck the camera down my throat, and
okay.
I have polyps in my throat also, plus the little hole. And I've never had chronic heartburn or anything like that, but now I'm having to take Prilosec every morning for something that I've never struggled or had problems with.
So it's almost like a Band-Aid. Crazy.
Yeah. And it's expensive.
Julie, have you checked for state insurance in Georgia? Indiana has it. It's called HIP Healthy Indiana Plan. So, Mike, each state has their own version of Medicaid. Georgia has Healthy Georgia or Georgia Blue. My card is very like nondescript. It looks like they printed it on Vistaprint. When I was in Florida, I got a really nifty like gold card. It looked like a gold Amex, and it was for Florida Medicaid. And that basically, they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're like a princess with that card." And I'm like, they said even for Medicaid that you've got a gold card. So I think it's like Louise said, Mike. It's different state to state. Nebraska had really good state insurance. Indiana, it sounds like, has amazing state insurance. Don't ever move out of Indiana. But
yeah, because when I moved to Georgia, I went to get my medical stuff. So I went to DHS office, I guess is what they call them here. And the lady comes out and says, "I can't help you. You don't get disability. We don't give, Medicaid unless you get disability." I'm like, "I don't." "Well, we can't help you. We can give you some food stamps. That's about it."
Right.
So,
Sharon's saying, she said her Blue Cross Blue Shield tried to bill her direct for her heart surgery, said I was too young to require heart surgery. They ended up paying in the end, which is great. And then Louise said, yeah, that's one of our BS kind of denial reasons. You're too young. We're not paying for it. So it is crazy. I think it should be based on you need it, we gotcha.
Yeah, thank you.
It shouldn't matter that you're too young, because individuals at different stages in their life are going to have heart issues. Individuals at different stages in their life are going to have lung issues. They're going to have, vein issues. They're going to, there's no rhyme or set reason. We say that all the time on TikTok with XXY. My XXY is very different than somebody else's XXY. My symptoms and issues may be chronically absolutely different than somebody else. You can't judge one thing on what you judge everything else on. You can't base it on what it's different in every situation. Wow, Louise, it took basically an appeal to get it paid. Julie, that number I posted might help him with copay. So Louise posted a number up above.
I'm looking for it.
And it may help with your copay.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Louise. And these comments will stay. You can always, when you watch this in the future, you'll always be able to scroll through and see these comments. thank you for everybody so far that has joined us this evening. Just a couple of things to think about. Charlie, if you could change, if you could change one aspect about American healthcare for everybody, what would you change based on your own journey?
That you shouldn't need a referral for what you need. I shouldn't have to get a referral to go to the cancer center. I should be able to just go, or go see a neuro. I should just be able to go and not have to have a piece of paper saying, my doctor told me to come here. I should be able to just go instead
And
of waiting.
know that you're accepted and needed in that space, because that's the care that you need at that time.
Yeah, and not have to wait 2 months to get an appointment like you're going through now with your estrogen, a month to get an appointment. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. And that's just my initial doctor. That's not even, I may go to that doctor and he may say, you have to now go see a specialist. And I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to start how can I make estrogen in my backyard? Oh my God, most insurance don't require them anymore. Well, most insurances may not require them anymore, but a lot of offices and doctor offices require that you have a referral. Louise, that's what we find here.
Yeah, well, and I have to say, other states are different, but West Virginia and here, you need a referral. Your doctor, your primary care needs to give you a referral or fax over a referral. And that's how they do it here. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's almost kind of in a way how they offset us, right?
That's what I need. That's what I need. I need specialists.
Right. Louise is saying specialists, yes. But that's what we're saying, Louise. A lot of times now you'll go to these doctors and they'll say, why, you need to go see a specialist. I have 8 specialists. I did at one time. I haven't even started that process here yet. I'm just trying to get my estrogen filled, because I have to take so much of it each week. But I'm going to have to jump. But like I told Charlie, I finally found a doctor here that will take me, but they don't take Medicaid. They're like, we'll take your Medicare, but your Medicaid, you're going to have to pay out of pocket for whatever your Medicare doesn't cover. And now I have to wait until the end of the month to go. So I'm like, but it is what it is. And I always say there's a reason for everything. So let's see. Louise says, I'm sick from Moderna in April on my 4th, and appointments are 3 months out.
That's what, to me, is what's ridiculous. I'm sick now. I don't want to have to wait till 3 months for you to see. You know what I'm saying? I just think the wait time for people who actually need to be seen is ridiculous.
Well, right, Mike, that's what a specialist is. You get it through your primary and they direct you to the right doctor. Right. That's what a specialist is. But we're saying sometimes you need a referral. Some places won't take you unless they have a referral. Exactly. So,
or you go into that appointment that your doctor sends you to, and that, say, the neurosurgeon says, well, they didn't fax anything over. You're going to have to go back to your primary care and have them to send you with a piece of paper, have them to refax it. Well, can you call and see? That's not our job.
Well, and the frustration there is,
we didn't refer you to here. Your doctor did. And that's the type of stuff you get here.
Well, and some primaries won't even, you have to pay a copay every time you walk in the door.
$50.
So you're like, you never sent my referral. Okay, well, you owe us $50 again for taking our time up, and we'll send your referral again. It's frustrating. Absolutely.
Well, Louise, it's just, it seems like the front desk people don't want to do their jobs anymore. And they're not nice anymore like they used to be, but they're not nice anymore. And they do, to me, most do the minimal amount of work that they have to do to get by through the day. And that's it. And it's sad for patients.
Absolutely. And so I have my streamer at the bottom saying follow us on justjuleigh.com for more content. We're going to ask Charlie to go ahead. We're going to sum up his story real fast. He agreed to join us this week on Rose All Day. For those of you that are listening again, our platform is changing a little bit in this next year. We are inviting people to come on to Rose All Day each Tuesday night at 7 p.m. as we go live and talk about collectively your stories. I am a huge proponent of, if we don't collectively tell our stories, if we don't share with people what we're frustrated about, what we're going through, how our life is mapping out for ourselves, if we don't share those stories, change will never come around. Change will never be viable in this society if we do not share what we're going through. I often use the analogy that, like, imagine the first person that ever had childhood leukemia. Imagine if that mother just internalized everything, didn't share what her child was going through. Somebody along the lines would have never have said, this is ridiculous and it needs to change. I'm going to devote my life to finding a cure for childhood leukemia. You look at it now, it's one of the highest grossing research in America, in these, maybe even globally. So it takes talking about it to affect change. So we're allowing people to come in the next year onto justjuleigh.com on Tuesday nights to share their stories and to collectively let us know how we can be supportive as a community, inclusive as a community, whether that's gay, straight, intersex, bi, cisgendered, cancer, leukemias, hair growing on your back. We just want to talk about the things that are not being discussed and not being taken care of collectively as a community. And I would like to be that gatekeeper for all of you that would like to come in and share your stories. Charlie's Cash App for assistance is located at the bottom of the screen. For those of you that are listening at home, it is $, capital C, ARELESS, capital W, HISPER 69. So Charlie's Cash App for assistance or help with assistance is Cash App sign Careless Whisper 69. If you find it in your heart that you can help Charlie in order for him to be able to go into this specialist and get his biopsy completely taken care of and done, please find it in your heart to do that. And his Cash App is Careless Whisper 69. Charlie, what is that total again?
$2,100, I think, $47.53.
$2,147 and
$43.53.
$43.53.
But I told the lady, I said I could pay the 53 cents. She didn't think it was funny, but I did.
Yeah, Charlie said he can afford the 53 cents, and the lady didn't find it funny, and she said, basically, we're not going to help you. So if you can help Charlie out, if you can find ways to help Charlie out, he's going to also call that number. Louise has posted a number in our chat. If you are having any issues at home trying to get through to your insurance company, if you're trying to get services paid for or even a copay paid for, people have left information in the live chat for you to be able to reach out and call that. And hopefully
I will. I definitely will.
Well, that's not only just for Charlie, that's for other individuals that may be listening or watching as well.
And I appreciate the information everybody's given, because it's something I don't talk about. I talk about to Juleigh and my spouse, and that's it. So this is the first time I actually sat and talked about it. So thank you.
Louise has a great point too. We often don't get very political on TikTok or here at Just Juleigh, but this is important. She said not to be political, but vet all of your politicians state to state. Vet them, find out what they're for and what they're against, and then get your ass to the polls and vote.
Exactly.
Vote. because collectively, we're all in the same boat. We may be in different storms, we may be in different boats, but the same storm. And that same storm is we all deserve better quality of care across the board. We all deserve the same. I should not be limited because I have Medicaid, and you should not be limited because, or you shouldn't be in a position where you receive better care. Yes, money does come into play. Yes, I understand if you're paying $800 a month for your premium, you should get, but we should all be getting the same care across the board, is my point. That's my opinion. Prayers for you, Charlie.
Thank you, C baby.
Friend. Good luck to you. Thank you for joining us. Mike saying call Karma's Bank.
I will, Mike, and I'll scroll through and get all the information that everybody's left, so that way I have something to do. But I appreciate everybody.
Thank you for everybody that's joined us this evening. I will be back next Tuesday for another installment of Rose O'Day in this new year of 2022. I'll probably have a wine by then. And I may, but we are always looking for guests. So if you would like to be the next on the podcast to tell your story and your struggles and share with our community, feel free to reach out to me this week at Juleigh@justjuleigh.com so that you can be a guest on our show. That's Juleigh@justjuleigh.com, JuleigH@JustJuleigh. And we're going to sign off for the evening. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your week. I love you all for your support. And
love you, Julie,
for being on this journey with me.
For more content, follow JustJuleigh.com. That's just Julie, JuleigH.com. Thank you to our guests, and thank you for joining us this evening. Join us next week as Julie tries a different rosé.